Marv Albert back here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Marv?
Hey, Rich. Good. How you doing? You've had a busy time, I know, the last few days.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
But you know what you mentioned could be the end of the Spurs, and rather end of the Thunder. I have found you look back at playoff games over the years, and one game does not lead to another. Even though as bad as that was, and that was it was shocking the way the Spurs were hitting shots, and to see a team lead by as many as 43 against obviously a quality ball club is incredible. But I've seen it so many times where the next game is not necessarily going to be the same. And I'm not trying to sell a broadcast either, but that usually has been the case. But right now, as Nick Collison said after the game, it's more of a mindset than anything else. But with Kawhi Leonard, who is completely throttled, both Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant, and he's done that to a lot of guys. You wonder if that will continue. I mean, those guys, I would think, will start hitting shots.
Well, and that's the point here, too, of why I think some people are concerned about the Thunder is how many times they did not win a game in the fourth quarter this year that they walked into the quarter with that lead. And it's just maybe a neck-up thing that people are wondering about the Thunder. And then after that thumping, how that can actually get some sea legs under themselves to come back at it, Marv. I think that's part of why people think it's the El Foldo, to use your phrase, in a way.
Well, the stat regarding fourth quarter, some of those are 2 and 3 points. It's not like they blew huge leads every time, but it's still not good. If you're Oklahoma City, that's not good. Even if they led by one, at one stretch. But what is, to me, what's disturbing about Oklahoma City, and it's very, very difficult because they're so star-geared. And, Serge Ibaka can score, and as it turns out, when he scores and goes in the corner, he's not underneath. He's not doing the same things that he used to do on a regular, on a consistent basis in terms of rebounding and block shots because he's taking corner jumpers. But it's almost like the Spurs are 5-on-2, and the Spurs are very similar but much older than Golden State in the way they swing it and the sharing of the ball. Oklahoma City the other night had 20 different possessions in which it did not make a single pass, which is incredible. San Antonio had 8 possessions in which they made 5 passes or more before even taking a shot. And that tells you about the style of play. Even though they are the oldest team in the NBA, they are still excellent. And it's tough for Oklahoma City to go up against a club like that. But they've had many games where Durant and Westbrook are just unstoppable. And, of course, that's their hope tonight.
Marv Albert joining me here prior to Game 2 between the Thunder and Spurs on TNT. What makes Popovich so good, Marv?
Well, I think it's a combination of, and he was right, from the start of his career, and he started as an assistant coach, and he was in the front office. He has is very similar to Steve Kerr and what Luke Walton did when he stepped in at Golden State. They have such a terrific temperament, and they are so good with people, and so good in dealing with the players, and also have a sense of humor, which doesn't hurt. Aside from being so smart at what they do, and people want to play for the Warriors, they want to play for the Spurs, and that really tells you a lot about the coaching staff and the front office. And Golden State's very similar; they have a terrific front office. The general manager Bob Myers and Rick Welts, who's president of the team, and the ownership, the whole thing. It makes such a difference. And both teams are very, very deep, too. And both teams have the same philosophy. They want to share the ball. And, obviously if you have the kind of players in Golden State's situation that they do, and San Antonio built a little different, although certainly LaMarcus Aldridge's addition has meant quite a bit. But they're deep. They're a deep team. They're old, but they're deep. I heard just before we went on, you were talking about Steph Curry.
Yes.
I think that what the philosophy is there. I know Steph wants to play. They say the chances of his return for Game 3 are pretty good, but I don't think they'll force it. I think it's more of if he does play, be it Game 3 or 4, he's not going to play a lot. I just think they don't want him entering a semifinal, rather a conference final, and then perhaps the finals, where he's rusty. I think that's. I know you're taking a chance,
yes,
but he can't just start playing without seeing some action, be it 15 minutes, 10 minutes.
Well, I mean,
and regular practices, and then just step into the NBA Finals or the Western Conference Finals.
Well, have you?
So I think that's what the thought is there.
Well, in terms of your history of seeing people, obviously you were witness to one of the greatest returns in playoff history of an injured player, but that was during the actual game itself. But do you recall another instance of an MVP being out in the middle of a playoff series for the amount of time that Curry's been out, leading to a coach having to figure out when to reinsert him into the lineup?
That's a really a significant point. I do not know. Aside from Willis, going way back.
Sure.
And it happened with Willis Reed of the Knicks twice. It happened. He was injured in Game 5 of the championship series against the Lakers in '70, and then even in the 72-73 season, he missed the previous season. They probably would have had a mini dynasty going with that group, but he missed almost the entire season and then came back for the playoffs and played decently. In the Game 7 of 1970, he hit 2 jump shots early, and people say, "Oh, that did it." It was inspirational to see him on the floor, but it was Walt Clyde Frazier who had one of the greatest playoff performances of all time that really did it against that Laker team. But yeah, it's really unusual to see someone get hurt, a major player, as you say, an MVP, get hurt during the course of a series, and then be in a situation where it's hopeful that it'll come back.
Marv Albert joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show, and one of the players of those golden Knick era years is now charged with trying to bring it back, in Phil Jackson, who is really in the crosshairs right now in the New York media.
Yes, I'd have to say so.
Oh, there's no question. How do you think this is all going to play out, Marv, with Phil Jackson?
Well, they really have they're in an impossible situation unless they get very lucky. It's not a great destination for free agents, and you're talking about their star player is Carmelo Anthony. I don't know if he really wants to stay there or if they really want him to stay there, and he still has skills and could be very helpful with a good team. Kristaps Porzingis, who was taken in the draft, I think potentially will be a terrific player. Plus, he has a great attitude. He's very, very mature. There's not much else. Robin Lopez does a nice job. They do not have any draft picks. I mean, that's a killer. And they don't have, for certainty, a coach. Phil apparently wants to stay within those that he knows, and that's not a large circle. So there are names out there. David Blatt, who I think is a very good coach, and it's very difficult to coach LeBron. So, I think he was in a very tough spot. And not only that, he had come from European basketball. Sometimes players don't accept guys who either haven't been in the league or haven't in some fashion, even as a player or as a coach. But Steve Kerr wanted to hire David Blatt as his top assistant when he took the job. Others want to hire him. So there's a reason for that. And then I'm reading today of the possibility of Frank Vogel leaving Indiana, and I know that Phil Jackson is, from what I'm reading, is a fan of Frank Vogel. He's a very good coach. If that should happen, it might not happen. I know his contract is up. But otherwise, it could be Kurt Rambis again, and I don't see them getting a lot of help. So I think they still have a long way to to go. Same for the Nets, too. Same situation. No draft picks. I mean, the Celtics have all their
yes, they
Celtics
do.
are in great shape.
Yeah, they are. But the question is, Marv, do you think Phil even wants to stay? I mean, because a lot of people are wondering if he's realizing there's writing on the wall here, and the Lakers just hired a coach that I think he would be enamored of, and Luke Walton. People think that he did that out here just in case Phil decides he wants to be with his betrothed once again. You know?
I think only Phil knows that. I don't know if he looks at it that it's futile, or he's going to stay in for the long run. I believe he has an option to leave after this next season, but I wouldn't even guess at that. It's a really difficult situation there, and it's not going to be a quick fix. It's hard to get good in a hurry, and particularly without draft picks. Although I don't think this year's draft is one of the better ones in years. I mean, there's so many question marks with this year. So it really has to be fixed with free agents, and that is a question of who's out there, who wants to sign there. I mean, there are different levels of free agents. There are some guys who would rather be with a winning team and might take less money. I mean, David West is, of course, he's not someone that a team like the Knicks would have been interested in anyway at 35, 36 years of age. But West gave up the possibility of a lot of money with Indiana for the opportunity to play with the Spurs. Mm-hmm. So there are guys who are younger than David West who, might want to sign with a team that's been a losing team. But most, I would think most guys, if they have the opportunity, want to go with a winning club, like LaMarcus Aldridge.
Sure. And we're seeing how that's working out. Last question for you, Marv. We couldn't help but notice that you are calling Dream Team or Olympic games, Olympic hoops game for NBC in Rio. First time you've done it since the Dream Team of '96. You'll do it with Doug Collins and Craig Sager. You're going to stroll down memory lane.
I'm very excited about that.
Pick your brain about this.
Right. The last time, we did the '92 Dream Team in Barcelona. Then, '96. I guess they called it a Dream Team, but I don't know. They're a very good team. I would.
Right. So what was it like, the '92 Dream Team, just being around that, Marv?
That was one of the great experiences of my life, even though most of the games were blowouts. But just to take a look out and see, I can recall even the Tournament of Americas, which is where you qualify to make the Olympics, which was out in Portland. The first time they took the court, it was like chilling to see that group. I mean, it had to be the greatest group of team players of any sport, in one particular setting. Even though they really had maybe a couple of close, I wouldn't even say close, but they were challenged slightly by I forget if it was Yugoslavia or they had split by then. It might have been Croatia or Serbia, but they really Chuck Daly never had to call a timeout. That's the way it was. But what they did for basketball globally, I don't think people realized. I mean, David Stern had the vision, because you could see even in that Olympics in '92, there were so many excellent players, European players and international players, and you see what's happened in the league now, and that's been certainly a major step in the way the NBA has grown, not only in the United States but all around the world.
Marv, thanks for taking the time. Look forward to your call tonight, and as always, thank you for calling into the
Rich,
show.
thanks. Anytime. I appreciate it.
You are the best. True. Go. Marv Albert, right here on The Rich Eisen Show.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.